I believe that people that put themselves above everything is like becoming their own deity. King Shalimar was visited at least twice in a dream by Yahuwah. Shalimar was as close as anyone could get to the kingdom of Yahuwah, yet he chose to serve other deities. I wonder if there was a ruach in him that had him thinking he was his own deity. I say that because there was a spirit that tried to get me to think that way. There are some people that believe because we are created in the image of Adonai, that we must be Adonai. King Nebuchadnezzar thought he was a god and caused his people in his kingdom to worship him. Nimrod claimed to be a god along with his wife, Semiramis. I don't know why I was being attacked by spirits like that when I'm not a person of importance, but they did. So I can see Shalimar or Nebuchadnezzar or Nimrod thinking that they were gods if a spirit convinced them to think that they are. I don't know if Shalimar thought he was a god, but he was in a position to act as one. Revelation speaks of the mark of the beast number being 666, and that number represents the pride of men. When we begin thinking that we're better than anyone out there, or that we're special, could cause us to have a self-righteous mindset. The pride of man causes people to think that way. There is only one true Elohim, and besides him, there is no other. In Mark 1:23 it says, "And there was a man in their assembly with an unclean ruach, and he cried out, saying, what do we have to do with you, Yahushua of Nazareth? Do you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Kadesh one of Elohim." And Yahushua rebuked him, saying, "Be silent, and come out of him." And throwing himself into convulsions, the unclean ruach called out with a loud voice, and came out of him. We can see here in scriptures that it tells us that Yahushua went into the assembly, place of worship, and was confronted by an unclean ruach. As he was teaching, a man with an unclean ruach cried out, saying, "I know who you are, the Kadesh one of Elohim." So these unclean spirits were very informed about the Besorah. They were mixed in with the assemblies of Yahuwah. I was wondering if that ruach was keeping a low profile until Yahushua drawed him out. That unclean ruach seemed to have a concern about if it was that time for Yahuwah to destroy him, meaning the unclean spirit knew there was a time that he would be judged. I don't know if the other people in the assembly knew that there was an unclean spirit among them, but Yahushua knew and commanded it to come out of the man. So there are unclean ruachs among us. These spirits come in many shapes and forms. If there were unclean ruachs dwelling in the assemblies of those times, they are most likely dwelling in the assemblies of our present time. 1 Malachi 11, Kings and King Shalimar loved many foreign women in addition to the daughters of Pharaoh, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Kittite women. From the guys of whom Yahuwah had said to the children of Yesharal, "You do not go into them, and they do not go into you, for they shall certainly turn away your hearts after their mighty ones." Shalimar clung to these in love, and he had 700 wives and princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. And it came to be when Shalimar was old that his wives turned away his heart after other mighty ones, and his heart was not perfect with Yahuwah his Elohim, as was the heart of his father David. And Shalimar went after Asterisk, the mighty one of the Sidonians, and after Melcham, the abominations of the Ammonites. Thus Shalimar did evils in the eyes of Yahuwah, and did not follow Yahuwah completely, like his father David. Then Shalimar built a high place for Chemosh, the abominations of Moab, on the hill that is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abominations of the children of Ammon. And so he did for all his foreign wives who burned incense and slaughtered to their mighty ones. Therefore Yahuwah was enraged with Shalimar, because his heart had turned away from Yahuwah Elohim of Yesharal, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this word, not to go after other mighty ones, but he did not guard what Yahuwah had commanded. And Yahuwah said to Shalimar, "Because you have done this, and have not guarded my covenant and my laws, which I have commanded you, I shall certainly tear the reign away from you, and give it to your servant. Only I do not do in your young men, for the sake of your father David, out of the hands of your son I shall tear it. Only I shall not tear away all the reign, but give one tribe to your son, for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem which I have chosen." And Yahuwah raised up an adversary against Shalimah, Hadad the Adamite. He was of the seed of the king of Adam. And it came to be when David was in Adam, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury his slain, after he had smitten every male in Adam. Remained there with all Yasharal for 6 months, until every male of Adam was cut off. That Hadad fled to go to Mishram, he and certain Adamites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was still a little child. And they arose from Midian and came to Paran, and took men with them from Paran, and came to Mishram, to Pharaoh king of Mishram, who gave him a house, and ordered food for him, and gave him land. And Hadad had found favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, so that he gave him as Ashah, the sister of his own Ashah, the sister of Queen Tachpenes. And the sister of Tachpenes bore him Jenubath his son, whom Tachpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Jenubath was in the house of Pharaoh among the sons of Pharaoh. And Hadad had heard in Mishram that David had slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the commander of the army, was dead. And Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me go to my land." And Pharaoh said to him, "But what have you lacked with me, that you are now seeking to go back to your own land?" And he answered, "No, but please let me go." And Elohim had raised up an adversary against him, Rezon son of Ayudah, who fled from his Adonai, Hadadezer, king of Soba, and gathered men to him, and became a commander over a raiding band, when David slew those of Soba. And they went to Damascus and dwelt there, and reigned in Damascus. And it was an adversary of Yasharal all the yemen of Shalimah, besides the trouble that Hadad caused, and he was hostile to Yasharal, and reigned over Aram. And a servant of Shalimah, Yerbin son of Nebat, and Yapha from Sereda, whose mother name was Yeruel. A widow also lifted up a hand against the king. And this is what caused him to lift up a hand against the king. Shalimah had built Milo, repairing the breaks in the city of David his father. And the man Yerbin was a brave man, and Shalimah, seeing that the young man was doing his work well, made him officer over all the compulsory labor of the house of Yusef. And it came to be at that time, when Yerbin went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Achiah, the Shilonite, met with him on the way, and he was wearing a new garment, and the two were alone in the field. And Achiah took hold of the new garment that was on him, and tore it into 12 pieces, and said to Yerbin, "Take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus said Yahuwah, the Elohim of Yasharal, say, I am tearing the reign out of the hand of Shalimah, and shall give 10 tribes to you. But I shall have 1 tribe for the sake of my servant David, for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen out of the tribes of Yasharal. Because they have forsaken me, and bowed themselves to Asherus, the mighty ones of the Sidonians, and to Chemosh, the mighty ones of the Moabites, and to Milcom, the mighty ones of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do what is right in my eyes, and my laws, and my directives, as did their father David. But I do not take all the reign out of his hands, because I have made him ruler all the yemen of his life, for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose because he guarded my commands and my laws. And I shall take the reign out of his son's hand, and give it to you, the 10 tribes. And to his son I give 1 tribe, so that my servant David shall always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen for myself, to put my name there. So I take you, and you shall reign over all your being's desires, and you shall be king over Yasharal. And it shall be, if you obey all that I command you, and shall walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes, to guard my laws and my commands, as my servant David did, then I shall be with you, and build for you a steadfast house, as I built for David, and shall give Yasharal to you. And because of this I humble the seed of David, but not forever. Thus the 2 houses came into being, one being the northern 10 tribes of the house of Yasharal, and the southern the house of Yehudah, made up of the tribes of Yehudah and Benjamin. Shalimah's son Rechman raised taxes, and Yerbin led the north to succeed, and to become a separate kingdom. And Shalimah sought to kill Yerbin, but Yerbin rose up and fled to Mishram, to Shishak king of Mishram, and was in Mishram until the death of Shalimah. And the rest of the acts of Shalimah, and all that he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Shalimah? And the year that Shalimar reigned in Jerusalem over all Yasharal was 40 years. And Shalimar slept with his father and was buried in the city of David, his father, and Recham the son reigned in his place. King Shalimar was in guarding Yahuwah's laws like his father David. His wives had a heavy influence on the deities he served and not putting his whole heart on Yahuwah. It was said that he went after Ashtoreth, the deity of sex and fertility. So Shalimar had a problem with women. He couldn't get enough of women. A lot of wars were started due to the fact that two adversaries fighting for the same woman. Women can be the Achilles heel to the downfall of a man. Eve influenced Adam to eat from the forbidden tree. So just like a woman can be a man's anchor and strength, she can also be his downfall. The name Asherah, Ishtar, and Iana were the deities of the Phoenicians in the area of Canaan and the Mediterranean seas. Asherah was the goddess of love, the moon, fertility, agriculture, and sensuality of war. These were the deities that caused Yasharal to continue worship instead of their one and only true Adonai, Yahuwah Elohim. Ashtoreth was sculpted from a tree stump into a goddess-like figure. Other nations also exported her into their culture. Egypt worshipped her as Isis, in Greece Aphrodite or Hera, and in Rome Venus, and in Babylon Ishtar. She was worshipped mainly during the spring equinox, or as some of the modern sayings, spring break. During this time was a large celebration of fertility and sexual conduct. Due to its sexuality and eroticism, many nations worship Ashtoreth, including King Shalimar. But the worship of Ashtoreth goes back to the time of Abraham's age. Loaded with alcohol, nudity, and sex, these celebrations create traditions like Carnival, Mardi Gras, and spring breaks. These celebrations all occur during the same time of the year. So all these celebrations are under the forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:11-13. Put on the complete armor of Yahuwah, for to have the power to stand against the schemes of the devil. Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against the world rulers of the darkness of this age, against like entities of the wickedness in the heavenlies. Because of this, take up the complete armor of Yahuwah, so that you have power to withstand in the wicked yom, and having done all, to stand. Ashtoreth was related to immoralities and sexual disorders. These dark forces can relate to prostitution, sexual slavery, sexual abuse, pedophilia, rapes, incest, pornography. We do not have altars or sacred poles like there was dating back as far as 4,000 years, but study shows this type of worship is as strong as we could ever imagine. Acts 19:25-29, who having called them together with workers of similar trade, said, Men, you know that our wealth is from this business. And you see and hear not only in Ephesus, but throughout almost all of Asia. This Paul has persuaded and turned away a large number, saying that they are not mighty ones which are made with hands. And not only is this trade of ours in danger of coming to rejection, but also that temple of the great female mighty one, Artemis, whom all Asia and the world worship, shall be regarded as worthless, and her greatness tarnished. And having heard this, they were filled with rage, and cried out, saying, Great is Artemis of the Ephesians. I believe at times when Yahuwah's Ruach dwelt among me, like he dwelt among all of us during sometimes in our lives, I was confused with being of Adonai and being Adonai, because his Ruach at that time dwelt among me. And bad thoughts caused me to think that way. You may have a thought that you can run faster than a cheetah, but when you come back to reality, you know that it's not possible to outrun a cheetah. We just got to be able to distinguish truths from untruths. When the devil put bad thoughts in your head, you got to tell him, Get behind me, Shaitan. I only serve Yahuwah Elohim. Tehillim 58. Would you indeed speak obedience in silence? Do you judge strictly, you son of man? Nor in your heart you work disobedience. On the arrest you weigh out the violence of your hands. The lawless have been estranged from the womb. These who speak lies go astray from birth. Their poison is like the poison of a snake, like a deaf cobra that stops its ear, so not to hear the voice of whisperers or a skilled caster of spells. O Elohim, break the teeth of their mouth, break out the fangs of the young lion, Yahuwah. Let them melt, let them vanish as water, let him aim his arrows that they may be cut down. Like a snail which melts away as it moves, like an ashar stillborn, let them not see the sun. Before the pots feel the thorns, whether green or ablaze, he sweeps them away. The obedient rejoice when he has seen the vengeance. He washes his feet in blood of the lawless. And man says, truly the obedience are rewarded. Truly there is an Elohim judging in the arrest. My family and I visited New Orleans a couple of years ago. This was years before Hurricane Katrina hit their city. Every year we would visit different cities and theme parks. We never visited during the time of celebration, but walking around the French quarters gave us a sense of what it may have been like during Mardi Gras. Even though I never had a desire to attend Mardi Gras or any other celebration like that, I knew what it was from people talking about it or from TV. I view Mardi Gras as one big colorful parade of entertainment and not the origin of traditional worship that went on for thousands of years. The celebration had a spirit in them that caused people to behave badly. You hear stories about people walking around getting wasted on alcohol, women showing their body parts in public, all kinds of sexual misconduct going around. Things going on that may be too much even for a person with a worldly mindset. But now knowing the roots of these celebrations give me a sense to now know more than ever to stay away from those celebrations. I remember people always tell me never to go outside the French quarters if you're not familiar with the city. And on our second or third day, I got careless and made a wrong turn from the French quarters and ended up on a different side of town. What we witnessed in 2 blocks was more than I ever witnessed in my entire life. So we learned making a wrong turn in New Orleans was a bad idea, the hard way. I don't plan on visiting New Orleans anytime in the future, but if I happen to be there, my first sense is to make sure I don't end up on the different side of town. But definitely not during the time of Mardi Gras. Leviticus 18:21-27. Do not give any of your offsprings to pass through Molech, and do not profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahuwah. And do not lie with a male as with a ashar. It is an abomination. And do not have intercourse with any beast to defile yourself with it. And an ashar does not stand before a beast to mate with it. It is a perversion. Do not defile yourself with all these, for by all these the Goyim are defiled, which I am driving out before you. Thus the land became defiled, therefore I punish it for its lawlessness, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But you should guard my laws and my directives, and not do these abominations, the native nor the strangers who sojourn among you. Because the men of the land who were before you have done all of these abominations, and thus the land became defiled. So let not the land vomit you out for defiling it, as it vomited out the Goyim that were before you. For whosoever does any of these abominations, those beings who do them shall be cut off from among their people. And you shall guard my charge, so not to do any of these abominable practices which were done before you, so as not to defile yourself by them. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. So I'm becoming aware that there are spirits out there in the world that appears to be harmless. But in reality, there are escalating spirits that rises up in time of worship, which can be known from Scripture as being idols. And idols are things that Yahuwah hates. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing. If Yahuwah is willing, I'll see you on the next video. So until then, stay blessed and be blessed, and continue to be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah.